Bienvenidos, Fright fans, and welcome to the horror show. I am Jaime En Fuego, here to present a special encore presentation that originally in 2015 was seen on my then YouTube channel, Jaime En Fuego, which was for a program called ENFUEGOTAINMENT that is in the process of a relaunch. But we thought that for the month of October, the best thing that we could do was bring the entire series coverage of the 1980s and 90s Tales from the Crypt HBO television show over to the horror show, show it to a larger audience so that they can appreciate all of the hard work. Man, did I bust my ass for that month or so, getting every single one of the 93 episodes done and reviewed and spoken about. We did a little of my little trope at the time, which was Bueno, Malo, Feo, which is a good episode, a bad episode, and an ugly episode. I am taking these 3 at a time, and then also a special 3-episode final edition covering all 3 of the films. Yes, there are in fact 3 films. So join me here as we jump into a little bit of a horrific relic that I am very proud to show all of you guys. So until next time, stay scared.
Greetings, boys and ghouls! This is Jaime En Fuego! That's right, and you're on ENFUEGOTAINMENT for another special presentation here in the month of October. This is the 23rd installment of my Tales from the Crypt coverage. When I realized that there were 93 episodes of Tales from the Crypt in 31 days in the month of October, what better than to cover 3 a day and run through the entire anthology. And as far as anthologies go, Twilight Zone, Outer Limit, even stuff like, Tales from the Dark Side and Masters of Horror that came much more recently, I think Tales from the Crypt is the best ever, like hands down, without a doubt. It touched my heart as a kid and cranked it up to 11 when I had originally been enthralled by things like the Twilight Zone. So yeah, let's get to it. Episode 23, and here on ENFUEGOTAINMENT, for any that have just stumbled upon this episode, this is where I cover the Bueno, the Malo, and the Feo. So I do a good, a bad, and an ugly installment, and I'm going to give one of those designations to each one of these episodes. So, the Bueno, my friend fans! Yes. And I'm in the 6th season now of Tales from the Crypt, and I feel that creeping inclination that the series is dipping in quality. I do. They basically had Gilbert Adler as the producer of the show for a while now, and I think for the last couple seasons, like 4 or 5, and here we are almost halfway through 6, and yeah, but this is the Bueno episode. This was the good one of the lot, so I'll get more into some of those other thoughts later. And it was actually directed by William Malone, who doesn't have like a ton of stuff to his credit, but he does have something pretty ginormous. He was the one who created the Michael Myers mask. Yeah, created the Michael Myers mask for that first Halloween movie, a look that became so iconic. I know I've heard those rumors that it was based on a, oh goodness, a Mr. William Shatner, or as he's lately kind of started to appear, William Fatner, but, hey, we will leave that for someone else to debate. But yeah, so William Malone also went on to, he directed some like sci-fi horror stuff himself, like Scared to Death and Creature, and then did the Tales from the Crypt, and went on to do some stuff like Fear.com and the remake of House on Haunted Hill most recently. Not terrible films, but not incredible. But yeah, obviously something to do with masks would make sense for his episode, right? And that's exactly what we end up having. It's called Only Skin Deep, and it sees the return of Miss Sherry Rose, who we actually got to see brandishing her lovelies, previously, and she does it again here, albeit she's in a mask this time compared to the William Friedkin. She was previously in his episode called On a Dead Man's Chest, and she had like this awesome tattoo thing going across her. Oh boy, did she look beautiful. And she still looks great in this, but she has a mask over her face, and this slimy kind of abusive dude meets her at a Halloween party. So hey, this is very befitting for, the month of October to talk about this episode. And called Only Skin Deep, there's an episode called Only Sin Deep that was much more cleverly titled and was actually from the original season of Tales from the Crypt. It had a wonderful turn in it from Ms. Leah Thompson, and by lovely, I mean like she looked beautiful, but was a total capital B word. But yeah, so Sherry Rose's character basically just picks this guy up at the party after he gets in a fight with his ex-girlfriend and is asked to leave, and he's pounding gin, and she's like, hey, come back to, pound some more gin and pound me, pretty much. And we're not going to give anything beyond that, but it's an odd character study, too, about just, just letting out aggression and just abuse and, pain and pleasure and sex. It's a very strangely, like, erotic yet darkly. I don't know. It's a Tales from the Crypt episode that does not have a lot of humor, really sticks to those dark themes, and doesn't really make stuff very funny. And it was written by Dick Beebe, who actually went on to write the House on Haunted Hill remake that, you know, Mr. Malone also directed, and Sherry Moon went on to act in Demon Knight after previously being on that older Tales from the Crypt episode that the Exorcist director did that I mentioned. So yeah, this is her like midway point in the series, and it's good. Her performance has some bite. It's got some edge to it, and the twist is not quite what I expected. I guess it's kind of a tropey Tales from the Crypt twist, but hey, I didn't really see it, and maybe you won't either. And as I mentioned, it's an odd character study. It's dark, and it's the good Tales from the Crypt episode today. Because these other two, I don't know, but let's get into them, shall we? Let's get into our MALO episode, the bad episode. And this one is called Whirlpool. And I gotta tell you, man, with the type of talent behind it, I thought this was gonna be great. However, I should have known by the casting that it was not really going to go in line with the style of the director. So this one was directed by Mick Garris. Mick Garris, most recently, people will probably think of, oh yeah, that's right, he did Masters of Horror. He was like one of the creators of that show, and he also directed some episodes like Chocolate, and I think he either wrote or directed Heikel's Tale, which was really good too. And that was a show that pretty much paid homage to Tales from the Crypt and Creepshow and just the anthology, you know, horror format in general. One that I have to mention as being an incredible installment for Masters of Horror, the Mick Garris created show, Cigarette Burns. Oh my goodness. So underrated, and I think it's underrated because not too many people know about it. It's kind of like, it's not quite a short film and it's not quite a feature, it's somewhere in between. And yeah, it stars dude from The Walking Dead that everybody loves so much, and also from, you know, Boondock Saints, Mr. Norman Reedus. This role is tremendous. John Carpenter did a great job. I cannot recommend Cigarette Burns enough. But I cannot talk smack about this episode enough. It's cyclical, it's one of those whirlpool type things, you know, hence the name, you know, how things just go in a circle and swirl and stuff like that. And it basically stars two different stand-up comedians, both from about the same late 70s, early 80s era. You've got Rita Rudner, and then you've also got Mr. Richard Lewis, no relation to Jerry Lewis, either of them. Yeah, both funny peeps in their own right, you know, they did lots of HBO specials, and they did, you know, tons of, like Johnny Carson show and David Letterman and things like that, but it's once again, we're returning to the Tales from the Crypt comic book. Yeah, we saw that in Corman's Calamity, which was a way better episode than this one. Seriously, like head and shoulders above, man, I'm telling you. And this one, it's just, the acting is over the top, it's silly, the scare factor is zero, like donuts, man. And Rita Rudner basically finds herself caught almost in like a Groundhog's Day type thing, where she keeps reliving the same thing over and over and over. It's a trope we've seen in countless movies that did it way better, and much more amusingly. The aforementioned film with Bill Murray, man. Seriously, if you want to see that type of thing, hey, that had more scares and action and craziness than this. But yeah, with the pedigree of Mick Garris, man, he wrote and directed the second Critters movie, which I thought was even better than the first one, Critters the Main Course, and then he also co-wrote The Fly 2, yeah, which some people think was even gorier than the first one and crazier than the first one, and you actually had a Tales from the Crypt director who was behind the lens for that one too. Then he also directed on Showtime the made-for-TV Psycho 4, which was kind of a prequel/sequel. It was the last one in the series. So after all that genre work, all those sequels, he went on to do tons of Stephen King adaptations, and that's pretty much what he's been known for since. He adapted The Stand, which I think is one of the greatest miniseries ever. He also did the Shining miniseries that, while more true to form to the book, just didn't really do it for me. But lots of other stuff was great. He did Riding the Bullet, which was good. He did Bag of Bones. He did Desperation, which I thought was top-notch personally. And we actually talked about one of the stars from that on a previous episode as well. So yeah, I gotta say, this one, with the talent behind it, at least behind the lens, I thought it was going to be way better, but too comedic, too silly, not scary, not good. No bueno. So definitely avoid Whirlpool. I just didn't like it. So, and lastly, we are going into here on our 23rd installment of my Tales from the Crypt coverage, the Feo, the Ugly. That's right. This one is called Operation Friendship. Yeah, Tales from the Crypt, Friendship, Mortal Kombat, Friendship, just like what the F nature. That's one of the reasons why this is a Feo, and it's also Feo because of the ugliness of having an imaginary friend when you're an adult. We saw this done so much better in Drop Dead Fred, man. So you got this guy Tate Donovan, who I always remember him from Clean and Sober with Michael Keaton, and then he was also in Love Potion #9, which is where he met Miss Sandra Bullock, who he went on to date for a little while, and then he also dated like Jennifer Aniston, and he was like a guest star on Friends and stuff. So yeah, he made his way through some Hollywood hotties there for a while, and he's done tons of voice work in like video games, and he voiced Hercules and that Disney cartoon and all this stuff. So yeah, the guy, he did both stuff before the screen and stuff, you know, as far as just like letting his voice do all the work. But he's a computer programmer guy who was way ahead of all of his classes, and so for that reason didn't have a lot of friends and came up with an imaginary friend, you know, and this imaginary friend had gone away for a while, but he ends up after he gets kind of passed over for a promotion, or at least a friend of his at the office takes credit for some of his work. He ends up reappearing and kind of trying to stir up some, I don't know, some desire to really stand up for yourself, Poindexter. And so, yeah, ironically enough, coinciding with this reemergence of his imaginary friend is a hottie moving across the street at his apartment complex. Yeah. So, you know, he doesn't like him being involved with the girl, and, you know how that goes. Those imaginary friends, they want all of your attention. And so this one was directed by a guy named Roland Mesa, who, what else did he do? I think it was like Revenge of the Nerds 3, which was like made for TV or something. And so Morfeo is just the evidence that the quality of directors that Tales from the Crypt was bringing in by this point in the series, in the 6th season, going down. So I think there's only one season after number 6, and yeah, there's only about a week left of this coverage, so not a bad episode. I guess it was more entertaining than the silly comedic craziness of, you know, the previous one we were talking about, the Whirlpool, but this one, the imaginary friend, just annoyed me so much. He's just, oh my goodness. And I honestly felt like Tate Donovan's just acting chops went to waste here, you know, because he was most recently seen on the legal thriller Damages. That's probably where more like younger and modern audiences will know him from. But hey, he was in Argo, he was in Good Night, Good Luck, both great supporting roles in those, and he has a pretty extensive filmography. So yeah, once again, talent's going to waste. It was too silly, but it had more of an ugly Feo, just strange, like, you know, like I said, like what the Ferg aspect to it. So there you have it, guys. That is my 23rd installment of Tales from the Crypt, the series entire. I got to extend a grande gracias for you guys tuning in and at least hearing me talk about the episodes. I don't know if I had seen all of these before. I think maybe only Skin Deep, but hey, you know, even though that was the bueno, if you want to see an episode with a similar title, watch only Sin Deep from the very first season of Tales from the Crypt. It's a much better episode as far as bueno goes. But hey, only Skin Deep, interesting nonetheless. So yeah, I have been Jaime En Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors, just at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube as Jaime En Fuego, just like you see it spelled below. And also make sure to see all of my creeptastic coverage of all things horror on the horrorshowchannel.com, just like you're seeing spelled below as well. That's where myself, Cecil Laird, Susie Von Slaughter, and Ms. Rainbow Rules, Marsha Parker, #awesome. We do all kinds of scarific coverage, and we always have lots of fun with it. We call it Scary Informative, and I think it's scary fun, like I've tried to make all of this coverage of Tales from the Crypt be. So I have another installment coming at you, numero 24, and then it's only going to be about another week left till I get to talk about the 3 Tales from the Crypt films, which I'm quite looking forward to as well. So I've been Jaime En Fuego, and until I get to see all of you Sin Amigos again mañana, adios.